right, so we're diving into this pretty wild article you sent my way.
Yeah.
It's about
It's a doozy.
Donald Trump's second presidency, Bitcoin, and the future of money.
That's right.
It's Trump Truth by Arthur Hayes, published on Medium in December 2024.
Yeah.
It's a dense one.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack it, though.
We are.
We're going to unpack the most important arguments and hopefully leave you with some food for thought.
Hayes really digs deep into the why behind his predictions.
Yeah.
He doesn't just throw out these wild ideas, he connects the dots.
Okay.
He analyzes historical trends, global power plays.
Yeah.
Even Trump's own goals and motivations to paint a pretty dramatic picture of what he thinks is to come.
It is dramatic.
It is.
Yeah, and he starts off with like a clever comparison.
Yes.
He's likening Trump to that yoga stick
Okay.
that you use for handstands.
Interesting.
So how does a yoga stick relate to global finance?
Well, just like that stick reveals misalignments in your posture.
Yeah.
Hayes argues that Trump's presidency will expose the hidden weaknesses of the global financial system.
So Trump's not creating these problems.
Right.
But he's forcing everyone to kind of confront them.
Exactly.
Okay, so what exactly are these problems, and what does Hayes think Trump will do about them?
Hayes argues that the current system, which he calls the Petroion.
The Petroion.
The Petroion, yeah.
Okay.
Is essentially a house of cards.
Okay.
And to understand why we need a quick history lesson,
Okay.
the world has gone through several phases of global finance since World War II.
Right.
First, there was Bretton Woods with the dollar pegged to gold.
Right.
Then came the petrodollar era, where oil was primarily traded in U.S. dollars.
Right.
Now, Hayes argues we're in the Petroion phase.
Petroion.
Petroion.
Okay.
It's more complex, but essentially China has gained more economic clout.
Right.
And its currency is playing a larger role.
Yeah. So how does Trump fit into all of this?
Well, Hayes believes
Yeah.
Trump's primary goal is to revitalize American manufacturing,
Okay.
strengthen the military, and improve the lives of everyday Americans. To do this, he needs to weaken the dollar
Okay.
and rebalance global trade in America's favor.
Hold on. How does a weaker dollar help American workers?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
A weaker dollar makes American goods cheaper for other countries to buy.
I see.
That would boost U.S. exports
Uh-huh.
and potentially bring back manufacturing jobs.
Okay. I'm starting to see the logic.
Yeah.
So how does Trump actually weaken the dollar on a global scale?
Hayes proposes a pretty radical move,
Okay.
devaluing the dollar against gold.
Okay.
Essentially, the U.S. Treasury would increase the official price of gold, making the dollar worth less relative to gold.
Wait, can the U.S. just decide to do that?
That's the fascinating part.
Yeah.
Hayes argues that the U.S.,
Oh.
because of its unique position in the global financial system, actually has the leverage to pull this off.
Okay.
It wouldn't be easy.
Right.
And other countries would likely retaliate.
Yeah.
But it's a strategy that could significantly shift the balance of power.
Okay. This is where things get interesting for crypto.
Right.
Hayes talks about a Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Yes.
Could the U.S. actually buy up a bunch of Bitcoin?
He's skeptical about that actually happening in reality.
Okay.
But he points out that even the threat of the U.S. buying Bitcoin
Right.
could send its price skyrocketing.
Yeah.
After all, if the U.S. is serious about weakening the dollar,
Yeah.
it needs alternatives,
Yeah.
and Bitcoin fits the bill
Right,
as
yeah.
a decentralized digital asset.
But wouldn't other countries,
Absolutely.
like China,
Yeah,
try to counter these moves?
of course.
We're talking about major economic upheaval here.
Yeah, this is big stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll look at how China, Japan, and Europe might react
Right.
to these dramatic shifts, and how their responses could further fuel the rise of Bitcoin and crypto.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's go.
So we've established that Trump's potential moves
Yeah,
could really shake things up
For sure.
on like a global scale.
absolutely.
But what about other major players like China?
Yeah.
How might they react
Well,
to this new financial landscape that Hayes describes?
Hayes paints a rather interesting picture of China's situation.
Okay.
They're grappling with some serious internal economic challenges,
Right.
high youth unemployment,
Yeah.
a declining property market, and these could be exacerbated by a strong dollar
I see.
and Trump's trade policies.
Yeah. I've seen headlines about the People's Bank of China possibly letting their currency,
Right.
the yuan, weaken? Is that kind of what Hayes is getting at?
He thinks that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He argues that China might actually downplay the true reasons
Okay.
behind any yuan devaluation, to avoid spooking investors
Right.
and triggering massive capital flight.
So what does he think is really going on?
Hayes believes that China might resort to massive quantitative easing, QE, to try and prop up their economy.
Essentially printing more yuan.
Essentially printing more yuan.
Yeah.
And as we've seen in other countries, that often leads to a weaker currency.
But wouldn't that hurt Chinese citizens?
Yeah.
Who hold their savings in yuan?
Absolutely. And that's where Hayes' argument gets really interesting.
Okay.
For crypto.
Yeah.
He predicts that savvy Chinese investors, seeing their savings potentially losing value, will look for safe havens.
Okay.
And Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature and limited supply, could be a very attractive option.
So we could see like a flood of money from China.
Potentially.
Going into Bitcoin.
It's a distinct possibility.
Wow.
And one that could have a huge impact on the crypto market. Hayes even speculates that we might see China try to control this capital flight.
Okay.
Maybe cracking down on outward investments.
Interesting.
Or perhaps channeling it through Hong Kong into crypto ETFs.
Okay.
Either way, he sees this as a potential driver of a major crypto boom.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But what about another key player in this whole global game?
Yeah.
Japan.
Japan.
Where do they fit in?
Yeah, where do they fit into Hayes' vision?
Yeah.
Well, Japan's in a rather delicate position, according to Hayes.
Okay.
They're a close U.S. ally.
Right.
But also heavily reliant on exports and holding a massive amount of U.S. debt.
So Trump's policies could put them in like a real bind.
Real bind, yeah.
How so?
Well, Hayes predicts that Trump might pressure Japan to strengthen their currency, the yen.
On the surface, that might seem like a good thing.
Right. But for Japan's export-driven economy, it could be a disaster, making their goods more expensive, less competitive globally.
So Japan is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
What does Hayes suggest might happen?
Well, he believes that the Bank of Japan might have to raise interest rates to prop up the yen, but this could have a ripple effect, devaluing their massive holdings of U.S. bonds and potentially triggering a financial crisis.
Okay. This is getting a little complex.
It is a bit of a tangled web.
Could you maybe break that down a little bit further?
Essentially, if the yen strengthens too much, it throws off the balance of Japan's economy.
Right.
They hold a huge amount of U.S. debt. And when the yen goes up, the value of that debt in yen goes down.
It's a bit like a seesaw.
It is a bit like a seesaw, yeah.
So what's the solution?
Hayes suggests that the U.S. might actually have to step in and ironically print more dollars to help stabilize Japan's financial system.
So on one hand, the U.S. is trying to weaken the dollar.
Right.
And on the other hand, they might need to print more of it to prevent a meltdown in Japan.
That's the irony of the situation.
That sounds almost contradictory.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the complexity of the global financial system that Hayes is outlining.
Okay.
And he argues that this apparent chaos could actually benefit Bitcoin.
Okay.
A weaker dollar coupled with instability in traditional markets could push investors towards alternative assets like crypto.
Okay, but what about Europe?
Europe.
They're a major economic force as well.
Yeah.
How does Hayes see them playing into all of this?
Hayes doesn't paint a very optimistic picture for Europe.
Oh, no.
He believes they'll be forced into a situation he calls financial repression.
Financial repression.
Financial repression.
Okay.
Essentially, he sees European leaders restricting the flow of capital.
Okay.
Perhaps limiting how citizens can invest their savings.
Why would they do that?
Well, Hayes argues they'll need to keep money within the EU to fund their own projects and stabilize their economies as the global landscape shifts.
He even quoted speeches by European leaders like Emmanuel Macron advocating for policies that essentially steer people's savings into projects deemed beneficial for the EU.
Exactly. Hayes sees this as a potential erosion of financial freedom, pushing Europeans towards alternatives that are outside the control of governments and central banks, again, highlighting how this global shakeup could benefit decentralized currencies like Bitcoin.
So Hayes argues that whether it's China looking for a safe haven,
Right.
Japan facing financial instability,
Yeah.
or Europe potentially implementing restrictive policies,
Uh-huh.
all roads seem to lead to Bitcoin.
That's the crux of his argument.
He calls it like a crack-up boom phase.
A crack-up boom.
For crypto.
That's right.
The old order is breaking down,
Yeah.
and something new is emerging.
But this doesn't mean it's all smooth sailing.
Right.
Hayes warns of potential pitfalls along the way.
That's a good point.
Yeah. He can't predict the future perfectly.
No one can.
So if these predictions start to come true, how should people navigate this turbulent financial landscape?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it time to go all in on Bitcoin?
I don't know.
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
All right.
We'll unpack Hayes's recommendations for riding this potential crypto wave.
Okay.
And leave you with some questions to consider as you navigate your own financial future in this brave new world.
Let's do it. We've talked about a lot,
I have.
how Trump's second term could trigger this global monetary reset and how that could potentially fuel this huge crypto bull market.
Right.
But Hayes is also pretty realistic.
He is.
He doesn't just, predict sunshine and rainbows for Bitcoin.
Yeah, he anticipates a potential market correction.
Okay.
Maybe even a significant one. Around the time of Trump's inauguration in January 2025.
January 2025.
Yeah.
Okay. He calls it a buy the rumor, sell the fact scenario.
Buy the rumor, sell the fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a classic market phenomenon.
I can see how that would happen.
Yeah.
All the hype surrounding, Trump's policies.
Right.
That might push Bitcoin's price up in anticipation. But then when those policies actually take effect and the market really starts to grapple with the complexity, it's like a reality check.
There could be a reality check, yeah.
So for someone who's intrigued by Bitcoin and crypto, how do you navigate this potential volatility?
Right.
Do you just wait on the sidelines and see what happens?
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Timing the market perfectly is incredibly difficult.
I imagine.
Even for experienced traders.
Right.
Selling too early could mean missing out on big gains.
Yeah.
But holding on too long
Yeah.
could lead to significant losses.
Ouch. It's a balancing act for sure.
Does Hayes offer any guidance
on how to approach this?
He suggests the possibility of lightening up on some crypto holdings before the potential correction.
So selling some.
Selling some before it potentially dips.
With the aim of buying back in later at a lower price.
Okay, so trying to ride those market waves.
Exactly.
And maximize returns.
That's the idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it sounds risky.
It is risky.
Yeah.
It requires careful planning, discipline, and a willingness to accept some level of risk.
But he also emphasizes, I think, that it's equally important.
Absolutely.
To stay focused on your long-term view.
Yes.
Right?
If you truly believe in the fundamentals of Bitcoin and its potential role in this changing world, a short-term dip in the market shouldn't derail your overall strategy.
Don't get too caught up in the daily ups and downs.
Focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. Hayes even acknowledges that if this crypto bull market, just keeps charging ahead.
Yeah, through the inauguration. And he misses out on gains by trying to time the market.
Yeah.
He's prepared to lick his wounds.
He said that.
And buy back in at a higher price.
It's refreshing to hear that kind of honesty.
It is.
Yeah.
Even someone like Hayes, who's
deeply immersed.
In
this world.
Recognizes that there's no magic formula.
There's no crystal ball.
Yeah.
No.
This deep dive has really been about
highlighting the potential shifts underway and prompting you to think critically about your own financial decisions.
It's definitely been eye-opening.
Good.
Hayes's analysis has given us a lot to consider.
He's a smart guy.
So what's the one question you'd like our listeners to ponder?
If Hayes's predictions prove accurate, what steps can you take to prepare for this new financial order?
It's a big one.
It is a big one.
Is Bitcoin the answer?
Maybe.
Or are there other strategies to consider?
There's no single right answer. But the key is to start asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And exploring the possibilities.
I like that.
Yeah.
This deep dive has given you the foundation.
Hopefully.
Now it's up to you to build on it.
Exactly.
Stay curious. Keep learning.
Yes.
And make informed choices that align with your own
That's it.
financial goals and values.
Couldn't have said it better myself.